Wow, welcome to another class. Yes, and this is the decimal class. Yes, so I told you guys it will be basic mathematics, some elementary topics in mathematics that you need to know just to put you in shape. Yes, and that's what I'm doing. So I just want you guys to be familiar with your basic mathematics, and I've done several videos. Right now, I'm looking at decimals, which is also a basic mathematics topic that you need to know. So straight up, we're going to look at what a decimal is. And a decimal is a part of a whole. It's a number whose whole number part and the fraction part are separated by the decimal separator, which is called the decimal point. So whenever you see a decimal point, don't forget it is called a decimal separator, and it separates the whole number part from the decimal part. So whenever you see a decimal anywhere, just know that you will see a whole number part and a decimal part, and you see a decimal separator or a decimal point in between them. And these are examples of decimals: 0.5, 0.25, 0.1, 0.9765543, etc. So there are rational decimals, that is infinite decimals, finite decimals. That means decimals that has a decimal part that ends. You can see it ends with 8. It doesn't continue. While we have the irrational decimals, where we have a decimal part that doesn't end. It continues and all that. Why? Or it's, more than, 2-3 digits, and it's continuous and all that. So we call it the irrational decimal. So the decimal can be expressed as a fraction whose denominator is a power of 10. So now, for example, 0.8, for example, is equal to 8 times 10 raised to the power minus 1, which is equal to 8 over 10. And 2.5 is 2.5 times 10 raised to the power minus 2, which is 245 divided by 100. So it's actually a fraction. So whenever you see a decimal, just remember this, that a decimal is a fraction. I hope you guys are getting all that straight up. So I'm giving you all the information you need to know when it comes to decimals. So we also have what we call the decimal fractions. Yes, decimal fractions like 8 over 100, 245 over 100, and all that, 2 over 1,000, 8 over 10. Anytime you have a power of 10 as a denominator, it's called a decimal fraction. For example, 0.8, 0.0025, 0.0036. Now, because the denominator part is a power of 10, that's why it is called a decimal fraction. We move on to, the other part, which is decimals can be added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided. So let's move to the next slide. Now, in the next slide, we're looking at decimal addition. Don't forget, in the previous slide, it was stated that decimals can be added, subtracted, multiplied, added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided. So we are going to look at these four, basic, I call it the basic operations of decimals, the 4 basic operations of decimals. So the first one is decimal addition. So we are looking at decimal addition right now. So don't forget, we look at decimal addition, we look at decimal subtraction, decimal multiplication, and decimal division in this particular course. So be patient, stay put, make sure you're attentive, pause the video if you're too busy, then replay it when you know you have the time to look at this. But make sure you're learning, which is very, very important. So let's look at the decimal addition. We have 0.8956 plus 23 plus 5.567. Now, we don't call decimals, especially the decimal part of a decimal, we don't call it as a number, especially if it's more than a digit. We don't call it as a number. We call it digit by digit. What do I mean? 0.8956 instead of saying 0.8956. So that's what some persons will do, but that's wrong, because you have 0 point in front of that number. So you don't call it as a number, but you take it digit by digit. So the right way to call this number or to name this number is 0.8956 plus 23.567, not 23.556. So don't do that. Don't say 23.556. If you do that, you're wrong. The right way to call this number or to name this number is 23.567. Okay, let's move on to the additional aspect of these decimals. So first of all, you arrange them according to their digit place. So you have your unit, the tenth, the hundredth, the thousandth, the tens of thousands, the 10,000th, and all that. So let's continue with that. So the next one, you write the second value beneath it, but there's a better way of writing this. You can take the bigger number up and take the small number down and you add it up, but your arrangement is very important. Arrange according to their digit places. Do that before you start adding. If not, you get a wrong value. So we have 6 plus 0, 6, 5 plus 7, 12, carry 1. Add it to the 9, you have 10, 10 plus 6, 16, carry 1. Put it to the 8, you get 9, 9 plus 5, 14, write 4, carry 1. And add it to the 3, you get 4. And then you bring down the 2. Don't forget there's nothing here, so that's 0 actually. Yes, but there's no number there, but it's like 0 plus 2, you have 2. So that's the final value for this particular sum. So whenever you're asked to add two decimals, first of all, arrange them in their rightful places, that the digit place, yes, before you start adding, so your values can be correct. We move on to the next slide. Now, class activity, yes. So I have an activity for you guys. Do it and put it down. Send me inbox me. Make sure you send me a message. Just do it and send me. Let me get feedback from what you've done. And that question is 0.567 plus 89.234. So do that. You can replay it and get a question. Send it to my inbox. Send it. You can mail it to me. Any medium you can use to give me feedback on this platform, you can do it. I want to get feedback from you guys. So let's see the next slide. Now that's decimal subtraction. So let's see how we can subtract a decimal from a whole number, because this is one of the most difficult problems when it comes to decimal subtraction. Subtracting a decimal from a whole number. First of all, you can see 5 minus 0.4789. You have to transform the whole number to a decimal. That's why you can see we wrote 5.0000. Now fill up the decimal places in the other value, which is 0.4789. Yes, so we have about 4 decimal places. Make sure you use zeros to fill up those decimal places before you start subtracting. So when you subtract, you carry on from year to year to year to year. And you get 10 minus 9, we get 1. Here will be 9 left. 9 minus 8, 1. Here will be 9 left. 9 minus 7, 2. Here will be 9 left. 9 minus 4, 5. And here will be 4 left. 4 minus 0, 4. So that's how we got 4.5211. Okay, so without further ado, we move to the next, which is class activity. Now for the class activity, just do 7 minus 0.375. Can you do that for me? Do that. Yes. 7 minus 0.375. Do that for me before, and send it to my inbox or send it to this platform for me to get feedback from you guys. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, in the next slide, we have decimal multiplication. How do you multiply decimals? How do you multiply decimals? So in a case where you have 123.57 times 6.4, this is in 2 decimal places. This is in 1 decimal place. Don't forget, after multiplying them as normal numbers, just do your normal multiplication. When you're done, put your answer in 3 decimal places. So that's why we have to look for the decimal places, number of decimal places for the first number and the number of decimal places for the second number, because we are going to use it in our final answer. So here you can say, note your answer should be in the total number of decimal places in the question. Okay, so after multiplying them, we got this. So so you multiplying 2 numbers is not really a problem. Placing the decimal point is where the problem is. And that's why we had to do this explanation. 2 decimal places because we have 2 digits after the decimal point here, and 1 decimal place because we have 1 digit after the decimal point, and we have 3 decimal places total. Your final answer, you put your answer in 3 decimal places. We move to the next slide. And in your next slide, we have, I think, your class activity. And for the class activity, just do 2.1 times 4.7. Do that for me, 2.1 times 4.7. Send it to my inbox. Make sure I get feedback from you guys. Let's move to the next slide. That's decimal division. Decimal division. So how do you divide decimals? How do you divide decimals? The first decimal we have right now is 18.36 divided by the second decimal, which is 1.2. So how do you divide this decimal by this decimal? First of all, you have to know their number of decimal places. Yes, for each of the numbers. Yes, the number of decimal places they have. For the first number, we have 2 decimal places because we have 2 digits after the decimal point. And for the second number, we have 1 decimal place because we have 1 digit after the decimal point. Okay, so total, now because it's division, you minus. For multiplication, we added the decimal places, but for division of decimals, you subtract. That's why you can see we had 2 minus 1 giving us 1. So in our final answer, we should have our answer in 1 DP, in 1 decimal place. So don't forget that point. That point is very, very important. Okay, so you do it the way you divide, your normal divisions. 12 goes into 18 one time, 1 times 12, 12, 18 minus 12, you get 6, bring down the 6, 12 goes into 63, 5 times 12, you get 60, 3 minus 0, 3, bring down the 6, 12 goes into 36, 3 times it, 36, and 36 minus 36, 0. Now take this 1 DP and make sure it reflects here. Your answer has to be in 1 DP. So we move to the next slide. So the next slide is just your class activity. So can you just do 4.82 divided by 0.2? Do that for me and send it to my inbox. And class activity, homeworks, and all that. So thank you so much for being part of this, this course on decimal operations. Make sure you look forward to other courses, other topics that we are going to put out there as a course. Make sure you're learning, and always make sure you apply every principles that I teach on this particular platform. Thank you so much.